It is Sunday. It's 9 p.m. European time, 9 p.m. Central European time. I'm LB0 Fox India Morton. Um, and welcome to my stream. And strange thing today is I don't have any guests, or I do have a surprise though. Welcome to my usual viewers here. We have LB4FH here. Welcome, Kjetil. We have Andy. Let's see there. Andy Cowley. Welcome, Andy. And thank you for supporting my Patreon. If you also would like to support my channel, there are some links below, both Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon. So thank you, Andy, for being my first Patreon over on Patreon. And I have two different levels if you don't want to spend a lot of money or if you really want to spend a lot of money. So, but today's topic, we got a couple more people here, though. Let's do that first. We have LB5JJ, and me and LB5JJ boy. We went to Parks on the Air activation just right over there. Lima Alpha 2532 today, Fredriksten Festning. And we had some really nice DX. There is a video coming up on that at some point next week. We have Lionel here. Welcome, Lionel. And we have Colin. And that's probably the ones I'm going to mention right out of the bat. But we're going to talk about the best tips for a new or an aspiring ham today. And that's actually not an easy topic because when you get more than two hams in a room, you have at least 5 opinions. But I'm thinking about what should we recommend to the new ham equipment wise. We talked last week's stream was about how to get licensed in the United States, and I figured if you want to become a ham, where do you start? And let's just assume you got your license though, and where do you start then? I think the first thing you should start with is an HT. Or actually, the first thing you should start with is joining a club or befriending some hams, because then you'll get access to two things. You'll get access to knowledge, and you'll get access to equipment, and you can somewhat try before you buy, because this hobby isn't easy and it's not cheap by any means. But let's welcome our special guest today and see what our special guest thinks about this. And with no further ado, let's introduce ChatGPT. We'll use some artificial intelligence to see where we can start and what the new ham should think about. What are your best tips for a new ham radio operator? Let's see what he says, or she, or it, or whatever. And I see that LB4FH chatted asked if ChatGPT has a ham license. We'll ask that as well. But let's see how this differs from all the stuff I've talked about in videos and live streams before. And there are actually a lot of tips here. And welcome, Bert. So let's go up here and see. First thing is getting a license. We got past that last week. And second one is actually important. Learn the fundamentals. Learn the basic principle of electronics, radio antenna theory, radio wave propagation. This is actually a big part, but I wouldn't put that on number 2, though, because actually you'll get that knowledge through experience. You won't necessarily be able to read up on that knowledge. This is stuff you got to try out. And one of my tips when people ask, does this antenna work? Does this thing work? I always say, try. Chances are you won't hurt yourself or anyone others. Let's see here. Get familiar with your equipment. Read the manual. And how many of you people have actually read your manuals? I usually don't, though. I try it out. But the next point, learn how to use all the features, is pretty useful because knowing how to use your equipment and knowing the limitations, that's probably more important than knowing how to use the equipment. Knowing the limitations of your equipment and how to get around your limitations is really important. Number 4 is probably the one I'd put on top. Join a club. Um, I've made a video on 5 reasons why you should join a club, and that's actually important if you have a club nearby. Otherwise, there are internet communities such as this channel, such as Toad's Discord over with the Coffee and Ham Radio guys, and a lot more people. Discuss ham radio with people. Try equipment, and see what you learn. Practice good operating procedures. Yeah, that's important. And actually, during my POTA activation today, as with all POTA activations, I notice people don't practice good operating procedures. It's always nice to listen first, then transmit. Number 6, also important, experiment and have fun. Yeah, definitely. And I'll be doing some experiments the next couple of days with this little binding post adapter. I'll see what I can do with different antennas. It makes it easy and cheap to build antennas, and one of my tips is also learn how to build antennas. That'll give you knowledge and how things work, and they'll probably work better than the commercial ones anyway. And number 7, continuously improve your skills. And yeah, really important. But let's follow up with Kjetil's question. Do you have a ham license? No, ChatGPT does not have a ham license yet. So, and what are your thoughts though during my talk here? I'd really like to know what your thoughts are about best tips for new ham radio operators, both knowledge wise and equipment wise. Where do you start? Because there are a couple of different philosophies on this. My first HF radio was Yaesu FD450, and by all means, not a bad radio, but is a cheap used radio a good radio to learn, or should you buy ones, cry ones, and get a, let's say, a 7300 and 991A? I'm not sure about that though. I probably wouldn't have developed my skills on tuning by ear if I started out with a radio with a waterfall. But the waterfall is a great luxury. Should you go for a cheap radio? Should you go QRP? QRP is that's let's dive into that a little bit. I love QRP. I do a lot of QRP, but QRP takes some experience. It takes some skills. It takes some knowing what you're doing. It takes some antenna optimizing. And if you're a new ham, and if you disagree, please put that in the chat. But if you're a new ham, I'd say start out with at least 20 watts. And with 20 watts, there's really one radio to choose from, and that's the G90. The difference between 20 and 100 watts isn't too great. It's about 7 dB or 1 S unit, so that's bearable. But don't start out doing QRP and think you're gonna get all the DX. I think the reason why I do get the DX I get on 10 or on QRP is a combination of a couple of different things. First of all, the solar cycle is a lot better than 2.5 I got licensed. And secondly, I optimize everything in my QRP kit from antennas to radios to everything. And I know the limitations of the equipment and try to work around that. Bert says it depends what you define as QRP. I define QRP as 10 watts or less, and there isn't really a strict definition on QRP. It used to be 5 watts or less. And in the 5 watt radio segment, there aren't really any radios left since Yaesu discontinued the 817, 818, at least sideband radios. Uh, but uh, but really, 5 watts, 10 watts, 20 watts. I wouldn't consider 20 watts QRP though, but I'd consider 10 watts QRP. And yeah, it's it is different. It's difficult though. Um, I got a couple of comments there. They showed up. LV4FH says that Norwegian contest define QRP as 10 watts. And Bert says 5 watts and the True SDX. I haven't tried the True SDX yet. It's one of the radios that definitely are. It's on my wish list. It just depends a little bit on. Well, I don't really have the money to spend for another radio at the moment, so that's one of the aspects on it. But those are the small Quirk radios, and I think you'd probably agree with me, though, Bert, that those radios aren't the ideal beginner radios. They do require you to understand a little bit of how radio works, and as I've said a lot of times, how the limitations on this is. So, but let's go back to our guest and see what the AI thinks about QRP. Should I start out with a QRP radio for my first HF radio? See what it says. I see that ChatGPT defines QRP as less than 5 watts. Let's see here. Well, I think it's pretty much the same as I said. And I say, if not, if you don't plan on doing some kind of backpack portable use, your soda, your far in the woods PODA activations, I'd say you'd probably better off with 100 watts for a starter radio, and probably with some kind of newer radio that gives you some visual aids on whatever you where you can see the band in addition to hearing it, because having a waterfall kind of may helps you understand where on upper lower sideband where the the transmission is, if it's on top or below your center frequency there, and that really helps you a little bit understand what it is. Bert Class says that in Belgium your first license is maximum output of 25 watts, but you can legally own a 100-watt radio. And that's a good point, though. You can always buy a 100-watt radio and turn it down to 25 watts. And with that, you don't really need to invest in a new radio when you get your higher license. And I think Tim Golf 5 Tango Mike did a video on that on your first HF radio, with thoughts on the British licensing system, where I think you can operate 10 watts. And I think Colin's here. So Colin, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 10 watts on the beginner level there. And I mean, as a new ham, you'd probably think go for a 10-watt radio. Get the 705, the X6100. It does get limiting, though, if you at some point want to go for a higher wattage. Andy comments, you can use 10 watts on your beginner license in the UK. So so I'd still advise you to go for a higher powered radio, though. So that's the HF bit of it. And Norwegian licenses, though, are probably unique to a lot of other countries because we get all the privileges. We have one licensed here, so we get all the privileges right at once. And that's both scary and nice, though. Speaking about radios, though, because before I got licensed, I did a lot of watching YouTube, as probably most people do. And you get this idea that you can use DMR, you can use Fusion, you can use D Star pretty much everywhere, and that all of those modes work interchangeable. That you can pretty much get anywhere in any mode on an HT. Um, Most people probably start out with this, and that's actually Anton's Baofeng. I'm gonna ship it soon, Anton. But I mean, DMR is tempting though, and I guess DMR is really tempting if you're in a country where your license doesn't allow HF use, and you can still talk around the world. But do the smart thing though. Check out what kind of repeater systems, what hams around you use, because there's not really any use of having those systems if no one uses them. Welcome, Radio Rover, and he's got a good channel as well. Let's see if I can point the right way. So check out his channel when you're done here, because just hang on, I'll go get something. I do have an example of this because about a year ago, I picked up this radio at an Hamfest. Yaesu FD70D. It's a great HT, except for perhaps the battery life and the charging time, but that's a completely different discussion. It's a Fusion radio because, well, I thought Fusion sounded fun. Truth of the matter, though, is even though we have a Fusion repeater in town here at our club, no one around here use Fusion. So I guess I've had about three Fusion QSOs on it through the repeater. No simplex QSOs on it. I've used the hotspot a couple of times, but navigating Fusion through a hotspot is cumbersome. So that's kind of a mistake, though. I didn't do the research first, and I went around the Hamfest, and I looked at the radios and thought Fusion sounds like fun. I'll get that. And LB4FH's got a good point here, though. Amazing quality, no users. And the reason that Fusion, at least Fusion radios and repeaters are so widespread, though, is because that Yaesu sells them with a huge discount and probably at a loss. So the clubs can get the Fusion repeaters really cheap, and they're both FM and Fusion repeaters. But doesn't matter if people don't use Fusion, no. So if anyone want to hit me, as any Howard want to hit me up with Fusion, you're probably not going to get a QSO with me because this little radio pretty much sits on the shelf. I do have some plans with it, though, not involving Fusion, but nonetheless. Same with another aspect of the hobby that that I've always thought sounds interesting: packet radio. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, anything like that, remembering having to dial into BBSs and stuff. Packet radio BBSs sounds so fun, but not really many people use it, though. So I haven't tried it out yet. I do have this now, though, the Mobilink version 4, the TNC 4. Which LB5JJ asked if I wanted to borrow and make some content on earlier today. So I said, yes, please. And there are some videos coming on that. Probably not going to be that kind of packet radio, though. Probably some 2-meter WinLink, some APRS and all that. But yeah, so do consider what's available and used in the area you're going to use it. Not overspend on equipment that no one uses close to you. First of all, it's going to be hard to sell it, and if you, when you figure out that no one uses it, and second of all, you're not going to have any enjoyment with it. And that's probably maybe something later on in the hobby, though, when you have time, you have money, you have the experience to experiment a little bit. So as a new ham, I'd focus on the basics and not what looks cool on YouTube. So first step is actually get yourself an HT for 2 meters 70 centimeter, and just get an analog HT. Go a little bit higher than the Baofangs as my advice. I got a couple of videos on it. I got a radio that I recommend to everyone, and that's the TV's RT85, which is priced similar to the Baofeng UV5R, but it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole differently radio. And Bert says that it's also cool and new and shiny, and it is. I mean, everything in this hobby, if you're a little bit technically and nerdy, is new and shiny and a lot of fun. So absolutely, it's absolutely new and shiny, and it's absolutely fun. Uh, and get yourself an HF rig, even though you have a license which doesn't perhaps allow you to transmit on HF, such as the US tech license. You can still use 10 meters. In the US, you can, and in other countries, you can still use it on lower power, but it'll allow you to learn. Get a basic commercial antenna as your first antenna to get on the air, but don't overspend on it, because it won't take long until you get the experience on what you need in an antenna and how easy they are to build, or buy a kit antenna. I always recommend the end-fed half-wave as a beginner antenna, because the end-fed half-wave is versatile and it's a multi-banded antenna. A dipole is also a good alternative, but a dipole is a single banner, though. I see the Bert comments that his first step was a web SDR, followed by an SDR stick, and being a shortwave listener. And I've talked a lot about shortwave listening and how that's kind of the gateway drug for a lot of us. I started out that way in the 80s and 90s, just tuned around, hearing different stations in different languages, and was fascinated about that. I'm not sure the magic is there now in the internet age, though, where you can get pretty much anything on the internet. I see that Radio Rover comments that his first antenna was the G5RV, only 5 meters up, but did work. Yeah, don't let everything you read and watch about the ideal operating conditions stop you, though. You're not going to get there. Let me see. I'm going to show you my first HF antenna. See if I can find it here. Let's see. And exactly, I mean, my operating conditions was not ideal when I started out. I'm just going to find the right tab here and share it. There we go. This is my first HF antenna. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. The M0 CVO Magic antenna, and I've done a couple of videos on that lately. 7.6 meters with a special matching unit, and if you've seen my last video, that's just a 4-to-1 on though. Works in 40/6. It's actually a Rybakov, and I see that Bert asked, just let me get that up in StreamYard here, if you need to use a tuner with the Magic antenna, and yes, you do. It's a random wire antenna. That was my first HF antenna, and I paid a lot more than the 62 pounds that it goes for here, though. And I actually, let's see if I can find the sentence here. What sold me in on it? There's something about putting up in your attic, your loft here. Can't really find it now. It'll pop up, and you can probably see it as well. I put it up in the attic vertically, no counterpoise, and that's not a good idea. That's not any idea good idea at all. Um, First time I pressed the tune button the day I got licensed, all the lights in the house turned off. I had a lot of RFI. But so I put the antenna in the basement. I didn't really think any more about it. Um, didn't really use it. I used it for a couple of weeks. Then I bought a Wyndham antenna from M0 CVO to use instead. Didn't really think much about it until Walt, Coastal Waves and Wires, and Tim, Gulf 5 Tango Mike, started talking about the Ribicoff. And it kind of dawned on me, though, that this is a Ribicoff antenna. So I tried it vertically with a lot of counterpoise, and it works. It's no magic, though. It is a Ribicoff, a commercial made Ribicoff antenna, but it works. It's not half bad. I see that Neil comments that his first antenna was a homemade fan dipole in his loft, still using it, and just keeps adding legs for it to other bands. And a fan dipole is a good start, though. But it's daunting, though, if you don't know what you're doing to start out and tuning a fan dipole as a new ham. And that's why I say get something easy as your first antenna. Martin comments that's no ideal antenna. It all depends on the circumstances. Absolutely does. And it depends a lot on the solar cycle, though. When I started out with the Medge antenna, it was December 2020, almost at the bottom of the cycle. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that a 7.6 meter wire is not going to work well at the bottom of the cycle. But now that we are approaching the top of the cycle, it's going to be a great antenna. And Tim's here needs a lot of radials, and Tim's done a lot of videos on the Ribicoff. So check out his channel and check out Walt, Coastal Waves and Wires. You can see what you can do with a Ribicoff there. Hans comments that his first one was homemade W3DZ set trap dipole, and he tuned it with a mini VNA. And that's daunting, though, starting out with a VNA. That's a steep learning curve for a new ham. So, but definitely, just get an antenna to get you on the air, get started. And getting on the air is actually, I had that on my notes, which I don't know where I have anymore. So I'm just doing this as it goes along. And getting on the air, if you don't have your license yet, the first day you get your license, do get on the air, whether it's HF on the local repeater, you hear some, press that PTT button. Get on the air. Get over your mic fright. Everyone's been new, and trust me, all hams love new people. We want our hobby to grow. Most hams do. There are some not so sympathetic people around. Radio Rover says the NFET halfwave is a good choice, and yeah, it is actually. And if you don't fancy making that transformer, buy one. I did. I bought one on eBay. It works. Not sure that every transformer you buy on eBay works perfectly, but the one I got, I've had it outside, didn't even waterproof it. It's been outside for 2 years, and somewhat of a temporary install, because I didn't really plan on having that antenna up, but it just works. So it's here. And it says attach it to a 67-foot wire, and I'm not that fluent in non-metric anymore. I used to be, but let's see how much that it's 67 feet is 20.42 meters, and that's exactly correct. Mine's cut at about 20 and a half meters, which is close. And that gives you 40, 20, 15, and 10. Excellent bands for new beginner. I say the team comments 20 meters of wire. So Beamy comments first antenna 49 to 1 and fed 21 meters over an Apple free plus a coil for 80 meters. Yeah, build it out of electric installation wire. And that's my next point on building antennas. Use what you got. If you have some spare wire, use it. It doesn't have to be the ideal wire. One of the tips I got when I started out was use stainless steel wire because it won't stretch. Okay, so your wire might stretch. It'll take a while though, and you probably moved on to another antenna before you get there. And Frasier says, "Don't go straight to data modes." Exactly. I did that pretty much because of my compromised antenna situation with the Magitana. I used a lot of FT8. Data modes can be fun and it can be really fascinating. I rarely use it anymore though. Do a little bit of FT8 now and then, but do pick up the courage, talk on sideband. You'll have a lot more fun. And if you struggle to get any QSOs, start doing parks on the air, summits on the air, worldwide flora, fauna, any of those programs. Then you'll have people hunting you and you'll get those magical pileups. And pileups are, I mean, people wanting to talk to you as it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling when you get that pileup that lasts for 40 minutes, for even though it lasts for 10 minutes, it's still great. I had one today, almost an hour, 41 QSOs in a row. Tim says he'll add that it's good to listen for a couple of days just to get the idea of the flow of a QSO. Yeah, it is. But most people listen though through their days of getting their license. When you get licensed, it probably isn't the first time you've listened to the radio, and you still need that practice. I think day after I got licensed, I joined a local net, and I had no idea how a net worked. And my first advice that I got there was have a piece of pen and paper next to your station, and that's a good point. And you won't be able to remember the call signs at once. That's also an acquired skill, though. At some point, you'll learn the flow and you learn the call signs and you learn ways to remember call signs. And Tim says location radio antenna name. that is a QSO template. This is a hobby where we talk about the hobby on air and talk about the weather. Talk about just general stuff. And if you don't want to do that, give a signal report, say 7.3 and move on. That's the summits on the air guy. Stored the call signs of many chasers. Yeah, I don't use that when I log though. I probably should have because in parks of the air, summits on the air, you get the same people over and over again. If you do parks on the air, you'll get Golf Zero, Romeo, Quebec, Lima as one of your first QSOs almost anytime. If you do summits on the air, you'll get Foxtrot 4. Someone's got to help me. Foxtrot 4, Whiskey Bravo, Lima, I think it is. So you'll get the same people over and over again, hunting or chasing you. And Bird asked what app LB4FH uses, and I think he used the same as I do, Hammers for for portable, and it's of course it's Foxtrot 4 Whiskey Bravo November. Yeah. I haven't done summits on the air in a while. Kind of discovered parks on the air, and that took up all my portable time. Uh, and Shadow says it's hammers, but then again, let's go over to that point though. Loggers, if you're new, do log your contacts. Don't aspire for the most fancy loggers. Use pen for that sake. Try out different loggers until you find the way of logging that suits you. I use Ham Radio Deluxe in the shack. I haven't paid. I paid for it, and I repaid for a new period to get the upgrades. Not really sure if I'm going to do that another time though. It's a great software suite. It's got the logger, it's got the rig control, it's got a lot of functionality, and it's relatively easy to use. I started out with N3FJP. Is that correct? I'll just Google that. I'll put up the page here though. Let's see here. N3 FJP. It's a logger, and it's just a logger. It doesn't do everything. It's got some contest functionality built into it, primarily for the American contests and the American Field Day. But it's a logger. It logs, and it does that really good, and it's relatively inexpensive. Let's see how much it is. It is 35 US dollars. Absolutely worth it. And you can try it before you use it. Let's see here. Should use N1MM for contest logging. I do as well. Just because it's good for contest logging. It's not a general logger though. It's a little bit too complicated. But we're up to we're up to the opinions here. Martin uses Log4OM, and more than 2 hams, you'll have at least 5 opinions. So try it out. Look what other hams are using. It's always nice to use something that people can help you with when you're stuck, because ham software is stuck in the 90s. It's not always user friendly. Bull Terrier Transylvania, thanks for today's park. Yankee Oscar 5 Quebec Kilo Alpha. Yeah, thank you for hunting. That's what makes Parks on the Air, Summons on the Air, and all these portable programs worth it, because people hunt. So we got the HT, we got the HF bit, we got the login bit. We talked about that. What's left then? I started out with a 2 meter 70 centimeter DMR mobile rig in my shack, and if there is a lot of 2 meter 70 centimeter activity in your area, always a nice idea. At least if you live somewhere not close to the repeaters as I do. I live out in the countryside. Get a 2 meter antenna up on your roof, and it'll work magic, having those 50 watts. Always nice for local comms. But don't overspend on a mobile rig for your shack until you know how much you're going to use it. And this is actually a point where I said on HF radios, try to get a newer HF radio, but on 2 meter 70 centimeter, look on the used markets. Just make sure that it has PL tones, CTCSS tones, because you'll need that to open repeaters. And that's actually the only piece of advice I have. And have something that's relatively easy to program. Perhaps being able to put the name of the repeater in in the display. That'll make it easier when you're starting out and you don't really remember the frequencies. Do check out the used market. You can get some good Japanese mobile rigs relatively inexpensive on the used market. Also, look into the Chinese mobile radios. I've tried out a couple of Chinese radios. Not all of them are equal, not all of them are good, and there might be huge variations within the same manufacturer, though. And LB4FH says that he doesn't have a mobile rig in his car. He doubts he'd ever get a QSO on it. And that's back to, where do you live, though? How much is 2 meters, 70 centimeters used? Can you hit different repeaters? Because not all repeaters are as much used. I do have a rig in my car. At the moment, I got a Retivis RA25 in my car, which is a great mobile rig for the price you pay for it. And I'm not saying that because Retivis sent me that radio for review, but it is a great rig. I think it's about $100 plus minus a couple of dollars. Easy to program, great display, great receiver, and you want a great receiver on your 2 meter 70 centimeter rig. So that's also a recommendation. In the shack, I got the Kenwood D700. It's probably more than 20 years old at this time. It does have a built-in TNC. It's got APRS. I can use WinLink on it by just connecting one cable, which is a winner for me. And I'm probably going to use that as long as it works, actually. Martin's XYL says, don't pay too much, don't overspend. And for you people that probably don't have your license yet that are watching, XYL is ham speak for wife. And my advice, though, is probably a bit opposite to other hams. Do tell your significant other what you paid for your equipment. Because if something should happen to you, you really want your significant other to get some resale value from your equipment. Beamy says, don't buy cheap or you'll pay twice. To some extent, I agree with you. But don't overspend either. Find that middle way. I started out, as I said, with the ASU FD450D as my first HF rig. Excuse me. Had that for about 6 months, and then it didn't have the filtering. It didn't have the functionality that I wanted. And the radio I wanted was the 7300. Didn't really think I could afford the 7300. So I sold the 450 and bought Yaesu FDDX 1200, which is Yaesu's Millway. It's almost a modern functioning radio, but not quite. It's almost a 991A. It's almost a FDDX 3000, but only almost. Had that for about 6 months. Sold that, bought a 7300 for the same price. So what I should have done is just go ahead and bought the 7300 straight away. So that's a little bit on the pay once or the buy once, cry once saying. Neil also says +1 on the 991A. The 991A, I haven't tried it myself. I looked at it a couple of times, and it's supposed to be a great radio. It's an all band, all mode radio, though, and I prefer to have my radio separate. The good thing about 991A is when you want to do sideband or digimodes on 2 meter 70s, your radio is ready for it. You don't have to pay for a transverter as I got sitting on top of my shelf here. And there probably is a video coming on that transverter at some point. I just need I just need an opening on 2 meters, some drop bar or something to be able to test it out. Um, see, Neil started out with the CRT Electro UV. Don't really know that radio. That's probably a little bit too cheap though to start out. And Lyle comments that TO temporarily offline on YouTube makes the point that your first radio is not going to be your last radio. And your current radio is not going to be your last radio either. But you're going to get to a point, though, where your radio hobby is a self-sustaining economy, that where you always have something to sell when you want to buy something new. Lionel follows up with, get a radio and get on the air. If it doesn't do what you need, then sell it and get another. And used prices on ham gear is actually pretty good. With some radios, you can get more than you paid for them, or you can get just a little bit of development. But you probably will be able to keep the same or get your money back at some point. Radio prices are increasing at the moment. I could probably sell my 7300 now for about 50% more than I paid for it. But then again, I'd pay about 50% more than I would pay for a different radio when I bought the 7300. So the return on the investment is not going to be anything. And but get on the air, figure out what interests you in the hobby, because there's so many aspects of the hobby. I know hams that don't get on the air at all. They're just interested in the electronics aspect of it. I know hams that don't really care about the electronics, but they love contesting. Hams that love portable operations. People that love to build stuff, just see that it works, move on to the next project. There are so many, so incredibly many aspects of this hobby, and trust me, you're not going to be able to cover it all, but you'll find the parts, the little bits of the hobby that is your niche, and those are probably the points that you're gonna focus on, and you're gonna regret on buying some equipment. You're gonna regret selling some equipment. For me, my first portable rig was the G90. Sold that to buy the 817. Bought an used 817. Regretted it straight away. Loved the 817. Missed the G90. Then I sold the 817. Bought the X6100. I mean, I love the 817. Wanted something different. I'd rather keep the X6100 than the 817. Perhaps not the G90 though. There are pros and cons to every rig, but let's be honest though, I miss the 817, especially since Yaesu discontinued the 817 818 line. And but let's see what Yaesu comes out with next though. The 819 or whatever it's going to be called, and hopefully it's not going to be the same rig with one more watt. Hopefully it's going to be a completely new radio. I just listened to the last episode of the Ham Radio Crash Course podcast on my way home from work this morning, and he talked about, he was hoping that Yaesu came out with some kind of 705 contender, SDR based portable radio with a little bit more oomph and still portable and nice. So that's my hope as well. But in the portable segments, there are a lot of radios to choose from, and not as much from the big three manufacturers, from Yaesu, Kenwood, ICOM. Yaesu doesn't have a portable rig now. They got the 891 100-watt rig. A little bit heavy. Still, having 100 watts portable is probably great. It is a mobile rig though. It's not a portable rig. ICOM's got the 705, fantastic little rig. but you can get about 2.5 Saigu X6100s for the price of the 705. And the 705 is a better radio, but is it 2.5 times better? Those are questions you got to ask yourself, though. Also, it's not only the HF, though. Define what you need, then look for the product that most closely match what you want and what you need. That's my advice here. Beamy said an 858 would be nice. Yeah. I'd love an 857 as well, but at the prices they go for on the used market, I really hope that Yaesu comes up with a replacement. The 891 is not a replacement for the 857. It doesn't have 2 meters, 70 centimeters. And that would be great. And all mode, all band 100-watt portable radio. But then again, there aren't really that much all mode, all band radios. There aren't that many all mode radios for 2 meters and 70, which is a shame though, because it's a lot of fun once you get into those higher bands and try to do some tropospheric propagation, DXing, or something like that. So I'm gonna try to sum it up some way what I've been rambling on for almost an hour here, and that is start out with something you can afford, get on the air. Don't buy the cheapest radio, but stay somewhere in the middle for your first radio. Let's see what Fraser says here. The only 2 radios he owns, except for handhelds, as the 857D and a KX2. The KX2 transformed his life, but he loves the 857 for 2 meter sideband. So yeah, thank you, Beamy. Do press the PTT button. I mean, the most important part of ham radio is this button right here. Press it, talk, get on the air, and just start doing ham radio. Martin says that hobby has too many rabbit holes and there are a lot of challenges. Yeah, definitely. But that's what fun of it. What's so fun though? You'll find this little thing that sounds fun. You'll go deep into the rabbit hole and you'll go through every YouTube video, every web page on that topic. You'll read up, you'll try to build some stuff, you'll try to experiment, you'll get it to work. And at least for me, when it works, I kind of tend to squirrel along to the next project. And that's okay. That's also part of this hobby. Find the niche that you love, that you wanna do. So those are my takes on it, and it's not too far from what ChatGPT said in the beginning here, though. Although you should never trust an AI, and that's probably true. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's coming up on my channel, though. I went out, did Parks on the Air activation today, together with LB5JJ. And we had a lot of fun, and we got a lot of sweet DX. The propagation was amazing. United States, Canada, no problem at all. It was a lot of fun. So there's a video on that coming out on Tuesday. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to start experimenting a little bit with this binding post adapter for new hams. An easy way of building antennas. I did a video on that subject about a year ago, probably a year and a half ago, about how to make a dipole out of one of these. I'm going to look into how to make a vertical, and I did not come up with that idea myself. Walt, K4OGO, did a video on verticals with the binding post adapter. So I'm going to try that a little bit. Probably make a couple of different lengths for the work bands for 70 meters and for 12 meters. to have some resonant antennas for that to use portable, especially when I go out activating portable when there are contests going on. So that's going to be an aspect. I got an Alacraft transverter that I got a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. I haven't tried it out yet, haven't had time. I'm going to look into that. And I got a couple of guests that I'm hoping are coming on my live stream, but I don't have anything confirmed yet. But if it gets confirmed, you're going to see a lot of great guests, a lot of interesting ham stuff on my live streams. And I really want to continue the licensing around the world series that I started last week, but I haven't had any people get back to me on other countries. So if you want to be a guest, shoot me an email. It's in the info page on my YouTube channel. Contact me on QRZ. My email is there as well. I'm on Discord, on the major ham radio Discord, so hook me up there. And if you want to be a guest, if you want to talk about licensing in your country, or if you got anything you want to share with the HamTube community, let me know. I'll put you on as a guest. And if you got a new YouTube channel, I'd love to have you on here as a guest. Help you grow, help you get viewers. LB4FH asks, how is the phone? Good question there. This is my last live stream, hopefully using 4G. The fiber is scheduled on Thursday afternoon. So hopefully the quality will be more stable. I think it's been pretty good today, though. I haven't got any warnings from StreamYard on low bandwidth. So I'm somewhat getting into a modern age, though, being able to use modern internet and not 10 megabit 4G internet. Still a lot better than DSL, but fiber is going to be nice. And thank you, Lionel. That today was very good. But the good thing is, I have, though, if you don't have fiber, if you don't have internet, you can still use email through WinLink. And yeah, talking about that, I mentioned this little Mobilink TNC4 that LB4JJ was nice enough to let me borrow. I'm going to do a couple of videos on that. Let me see here. I'm going to see if I can show you this, see how good the camera picks up. No, it doesn't pick up. But the radio mail app for iPhone, I installed that today, and I'm going to try that out. Do some 2-meter WinLink portable. I'm sorry about you, Fraser. But just out of curiosity, how do you upload your YouTube videos on 2 megabit? I find that challenging enough on 10 megabit. So that'd be interesting to hear. 7-3 Beamy. I'm probably gonna end this pretty soon. Random Wires here. He was guest last week on my channel. He's got a new YouTube channel, Dave there. He talked about licensing in the US. Check out his channel. Hopefully there's a lot of good content coming there. And Andy, as I said, Andy Cowley, thank you for being my first Patreon. If you want to support the channel, I'm not in this for the money. I don't think I'm ever going to get rich on ham radio YouTube. I'm in it for the love of the hobby, just to make that clear. But it is an expense, though, running a channel like this. And if you want to support me, if you want to help me get gear, make content, review gear, do those I bought this so you don't have to videos. Feel free to support me. And if you don't want to support me, at least click that like button. That'll help me. That'll help the YouTube algorithm to promote my videos. That's basically if that's I'd love it if you do that at least, and do comment. I love the comments. I love hearing you guys' opinions. I love the chat on my live stream. Seriously, I do. I wouldn't be able to do these live streams without the chat. let's see what Fraser says about the YouTube uploading. He leaves the PC on overnight to upload videos. Yeah, that sounds like a challenge, but you make good content, Fraser. So keep doing that. So and K3JRZ says that chat is always good. And yeah, I love the chat. I love the comments. I love building somewhat of a community around this channel. Love that. And on that note, I'll pass the hour mark and not having a guest today. My throat is getting a little bit sore. I see that Fraser got another sub today, so that's good. And speaking about subs, do subscribe to LB4FH Portable Radio while you're at it. Thank you for watching. It's been great as usual. I'll be back with a couple of videos the next coming week. I'll be back with a chat with a live stream next Sunday. Don't really know who my guest is going to be. I hope I get the guest I want next Sunday. You'll know as soon as I know, and if so, it's going to be great. I can't say any more on that. So that's good. And K3 Jerry says that I need to change my duty cycle. Yeah. I post a lot of videos now, and that's because I got things to make content on. Though it's not because I feel that it's a struggle. The moment it's a struggle, I'll stop posting as I do. But at the moment, I got stuff to make content on, and when I have free time, I might do 1, 2, 3 videos in a day and spread them out. And that's the way I do it, though. I usually make all my videos for the next coming weeks on Sundays, Mondays, and leave them going. So Martin asked, "What's the Discord?" I'm most active on the Totes Discord. Do check out Temporarily Offline, his channel, and there are links to the Discord down there. I got the link on some of my videos, but I'm not good enough to put the links down there. I'll put it in my template though, and put it on my videos from now on. And that's about it. I need to get my voice back and rest my voice for a little bit. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being on 7-3. And let's see.